Hi, Megan.
Hi, what's up? What are you doing?
Oh, girl, I'm talking to you. I'm going to be in conversation with you.
But you look super cute, and I look fresh faced.
Well, in fairness, I have a filter on. I am, of course, wearing makeup and stuff, but I have a little filter on this video.
How do you
Yes,
get a filter? What I need to do to get this fabulous filter?
it can be done. I'll send it to you when we're done.
Oh, thank you, girl.
It can be done. But you look great, Megan. You always look great. Like literally.
I'm about to be on par with you, Shar. So the first part of this, I'm gonna be putting my lashes on.
Okay. we can. I just got, listen, when I open these up, I just talk like general conversation. So go ahead, do what you got to do. You know, I can hold down the fort. I'm going to provide people with a little backstory while you get ready.
Okay, don't
So,
girl. I'm gonna be listening and talking too. Okay.
okay. So Megan, for those of you who don't know, like I mentioned at the top of this video, I look at you as a powerhouse, as a force, and I always have. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you. I always.
What?
Well, I'm going to tell you. Megan is someone who I worked with 5 years ago on a network called AfterBuzz, which is that's a whole other live, actually.
A whole nother story.
But Megan is someone, you ever meet someone and instantly you're like, wow, she, he, or they have like an it factor. Megan, you're so magnetic. You command presence without demanding it. Like you don't suck the air out of the room. And you're someone, when I met you, because, okay, so the backstory is I wanted to get out of reality TV. When I was at AfterBuzz, I did a lot of reality TV. And everybody knew that I loved being Mary Jane, but that panel was already established. And so they had to have some emails. I think you all had a vacancy. And
Yeah.
so there was an opening for a girl like me. We exchanged some emails and then I joined the panel. Now, what I loved about this panel is it's the closest that I felt like to like The View or something, because it was four Black women. And I felt communal with you all, unlike I had felt with, like any other show. And that's not a knock on any of my other former co-hosts. But when I sat alongside you, Fania, and Tiana, shout out to those girls, it felt communal, where we didn't have to like explain much because we already saw each other, if you know what I mean.
Yes, and that's what made it so much fun. This is why, Shar, I feel comfortable enough with you to put my lashes on like this. Usually, I didn't even realize they weren't on until I got on. I was like, oh, look, my eyes is naked. But like, I feel so comfortable with you because that experience, it was just like, oh, like Char's my sister. Penny is my sister. Tiana's my sister. Like, we just got so close.
We did. We did. And we had quite the time. So what I loved most about that time is that was my first time when I was with that network. That was really my first time like interviewing celebrities, because week by week, I mean, we tried hard. We tried through hell and hot water. Oh, there's Tiana's in the comments. Hey, Tiana.
Hi, Tiana. We love you. We miss you.
We do. But we tried so hard to get Gabrielle Union. And it seemed like we got everyone else. Shout out to Raven Goodwin and Lisa Vidal and Thomas Q. Jones and et cetera, and Mara Brock-Akil. We got everyone, Twinkie Bird, but that damn Gabby Union. But it was a great exercise for me, and I was really grateful. Like, that was by far like one of the top 3 panels that I did, because I did a lot of shows when I was there before I was unceremoniously there were some things that went down. Right. But I really enjoyed that panel. But I say all of that to say, when I met you, you were one of the people that I'm like, wow, she has an it factor. And because I know who I am, I wasn't intimidated by it. Like, I could tell you were about shit and you weren't playing around.
And that's what I loved about you, even to this day. You know what I mean? Like, Shar, you are so much fun. You are so sweet. You are like a genuine host. You have really, like, you're witty, you're quick. So like, being a co-host with you was fun because it's new, it's fresh, it's not boring. Yeah. So I always remembered that about you from that experience.
Oh, thank you, Megan. So let's hop into some of the things I wanted to talk to you about. So for starters, because I know that you're a mommy, I know that you're busy, you've moved, like, we're going to get into all of that. But what are you, in this quarantine, what have you been watching? Have you been reading anything? What have you been listening to? Like, what's on your TV programming lineup if you have time to watch TV?
Oh, there's a lot of time of TV.
Okay.
Kind of at night when the baby's asleep. But like I reached the end of Netflix, so every every series I've gone through. I mean, I've done Dark. I've done. Oh, that's actually what I'm finishing up now. I did. What's the other one? Oh gosh, Lord, I'm like now I got a blank because I'm like, wait a minute, I've seen so many things. I just finished up something that was really good. I did All American. I finished that up.
Okay.
What else? So yeah, I've been watching basically a lot of Netflix, also a lot of children's shows, a lot of Paw Patrol, Played Out Pals, been filling up my day. But then as well, oh, so there's a good book by his name is Pastor Michael Todd. And
Okay.
it's about it's about love. And you should absolutely get it. Just search him right now, Pastor Michael Todd on Amazon. I forget the name of it. It's
I'm gonna write this. I'm gonna write Pastor Michael. You see, I'm gonna write this down now.
Write it, because girl, he is like everything. And his sermons, he does sermons on, if anybody's interested, he does sermons on Sundays. His church is called Transformation Church. It's amazing, and I love his sermons. He has a lot of humor, so I can appreciate a pastor with some humor. So he's pretty cool. Right. But he's got a relationship book out. I think it's called Love. I don't know. Don't get me lying. I'm drawing a blank here, but it's really great.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I just recently started dating again. But with that came, I'm reading this book. Well, I haven't really had a chance to dive into it because I've been having a crazy, like in a good way crazy, but like a wild, like last few weeks. But I've just started kind of sort of reading this book called All About Love by Bell Hooks.
Okay.
And so
how is it?
I'm peeling back some layers. I've been doing the work over here, doing the self work to try to determine what my pluses and minuses are and what I require,
Yeah.
So
I feel like it's helping.
Yeah, I really do. I really do. And you know what? I say this not to be dramatic because I can be dramatic, but I say this with full transparency. I feel like parts of me died this year, like really. But I'm not mourning them. I feel like I'm optimistic in that it's making space for other things. But I truly,
the bad stuff died, not the good stuff.
That's yet to be determined.
Ooh.
That's yet to be determined. But I know that aspects of me are gone this year. There's been a lot of transformation going on in this apartment, and a lot of reflection, a lot of accountability. And yeah, I don't know how to articulate that without sounding dramatic, but I do feel like I've lost parts of me this year that I likely never get back. And I don't know if I want it back because, like I said, I'm optimistic about new things inhabiting that space, not necessarily getting what has died off or what I've shut off, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm like, I'm interested to see this new Shar because you was already
not too much pressure though, right?
I gotta get my stuff together. I'll be like, parts of me have died. I wish it was the extra fat that I've been carrying, but it's not that.
Listen, I want some physical things, to go away too, but this has been all up here for me.
That makes a difference, yes.
So, yeah, that just kind of just did something to me. But what I was saying, like my Sunday night lineup, I have to shout out my friend James. He worked on this show that's coming out, I believe it's on HBO, called Lovecraft Country, starring Journey Smollett and a few others. That premieres tonight. I've also been watching The Chi. Now, do you watch P-Valley? Is that something that interests you?
I'm about to start, actually. So
okay.
I had to finish up because I hate having too many series going on at a time.
Same.
So since I just ended one series, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to have to go start this one. So yes, I'm excited.
I just binged it this past week because everybody on the internet was bullying me to start the damn P-Valley. And so it's good. I like it. I like it. It's so much more. Oh, and your sorority sister stars in it. I think her name is Brandy, but the stripper name is Mercedes. Yes, she's a Delta.
Brandy. She's in it. Yeah, I learned about this show actually from her page, and I was like, oh, it's a cool show because I moved back to Atlanta last year, and like that whole series is about like Southern strip clubs, like the culture behind it. So being in the South, like I understand what it's like. Like it's not what you think. Like when you think of strip club, you're like, oh, strip club. It's not like that. Like there's a whole different world. It's like a club. Like I don't know if that makes sense. Like it's
well in the show. Right, in the show, it's their hub for everything. So you see things like people doing divorce parties, bachelorette parties, bachelor parties,
Yeah.
birthdays. Like it is like the focal point of the community within context of this show. So,
Real. That's honest to God, that is real life in the South.
and then of course, what I'm looking forward to tonight is the Potomac Housewives. I started that season 1, episode 1 when I was with AfterBuzz, and so I've never been able to let that show go. I still watch the Potomac Housewives.
See, I let that one because I was doing too many of them. I was doing Beverly Hills, Potomac, Atlanta. So I was like, okay, Megan, you got to pick one. So I stuck with Atlanta, and I'm only allowing myself to watch Atlanta.
I think I inherited Atlanta after you when we were on AfterBuzz. Because I did Atlanta, I think I did a few seasons of Atlanta recap, but Jesse was the Barbara Walters of that panel.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and so then we just all kind of fell in line. But I did Atlanta, Potomac, and I just recently, I was not a Beverly Hills girl. I recently binged Beverly Hills back in May, the first time I braided my own hair. This is like the third time I've done it. Like I new tricks, new tops.
Wait, you like watch yourself this?
Yes, I watched YouTube videos and I braided my own hair.
Gosh, you are amazing. This is I can do. Okay, this is a half up, half down. This is.
But I love it. And I see you got your blonde. You incorporated your color back into it.
It's a little bit. It's been black for years, but I was like, okay, let me try a little something, just a little pop. That's about it.
So let me ask you if you've heard of this story. Does the name, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, does Kima Siverand ring a bell to you? He was a starting player, a rookie cornerback for the Seattle Seahawks.
Nah, girl.
Girl, well, let me tell you what happened. Earlier this week, this man jeopardized his entire future. He's been kicked off of the team, if I'm not mistaken. He jeopardized his entire future because he tried to sneak a woman into the hotel, into like the bubble base camp, and he put her in Seattle Seahawks gear. So he tried to sneak her in as a player to his room so they could, maybe have some WAP going on. And in exchange for that, she was busted, obviously. And in exchange, his future just got flushed down the toilet. Like there is no more NFL.
Is he a rookie? He's got to be new.
He's a rookie, all because he couldn't control his urges.
Yeah, because I feel like if you've been in the NFL, you understand how easy it is to not be in it. Because the average for any player is about 4 years. So if you've been in the NFL, you're like, oh, we're not jeopardizing anything over here. So he has to be, for sure, a rookie. And if you can't just say, hey, I need to focus on my job for a little bit, and then I'll just go ahead and mess with the ladies a little bit after. If you can't do that for your well-being, then you probably shouldn't be there. Let's be honest.
That's a true testament to priorities.
Yeah.
Because we all know that there's other things he could have resorted to if push came to shove. You could get creative with your FaceTime. You can you could do a whole bunch of stuff if push came to shove. I would even risk going out myself before I risk sneaking someone onto base, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because and isn't that worse? Like you're now jeopardizing the entire camp because you're bringing somebody in.
Yeah.
I guess if you left, it's kind of the same thing. But now, like, bro, you got a bigger problem. You probably need to go see somebody about that. Sounds like an addiction.
Yeah.
And then what's I was watching this one thing. Stephen A. Smith, the commentator.
Yes.
He was like, he felt like all these players in the bubble should get conjugal visits. Like, first of all, conjugal visits are for people in prison who cannot get out. These people are welcome to leave, okay? They will jeopardize their careers, but they're allowed to leave if it's that important to them. But, like, the fact that he's like, they should let their wives or girlfriends or, like, significant others come. I'm like, that defeats the whole purpose.
It really does, because we don't know who they have been around. And granted, their COVID tests, I was just hanging out with some people yesterday, social distancing and being responsible, had my mask on, but they work in the beauty industry, like celebrity beauty industry. And they were talking about, because I've gotten a COVID test done and I did the 48 hours, it was the mouth swab. But I guess there's different tests. I was kind of unaware to this. Like they have like rapid tests available where you can get it done in 15 to 20 minutes to dictate whether or not you have, and that's what they have to do for their line of work, because they're working with celebrities who are still getting professional hair and makeup and all of that stuff done. And so these are just like I was talking to you, we saw each other for the first time in years. a few
Yeah.
weeks ago, and I have no problem washing my hands incessantly. It's the masks that kill me. I hate wearing the mask.
And then like on the inside of your mask, if you have a reusable one, mine is like a makeup in there. I'm like, oh, my highlight is not gonna pop anymore with all this mask work.
Listen, the things that I've been doing, I've been having to carry like a little beauty blender, like a little dry sponge with me so I can buff up those lines before I'm on camera living online forever with lines in my face because I had to be responsible and wear the mask.
Right.
Now, okay, so the WAP video. Last week, my guest was Christina Elmore, and the WAP video was fresh. For those of you who don't know, yes, it's the Cardi B and the Megan Thee Stallion video for WAP, which is an automatopoeia, which I found out. What are your thoughts around some of the conversation surrounding it? Because I loved it. I loved the video, but at the time I talked to Christina, it was only like 2 days old. So now that we've had a week and some change to sit on it, and I'm sure you've seen all of the discourse because it's been coming from everywhere. What are some of your thoughts on the WAP video?
I mean, I love both of them. Okay, Cardi B is my favorite rapper out right now. She's just because I just like her honesty, her realness, and that's refreshing. Megan Thee Stallion as well. Like, I love the fact that she's a college student and she's like, she doesn't have to go to college. She's making money. She's doing what she loves, and most people go to college to do what they love. So it's kind of like, well, why is she in school? Because it's important to her. I'm sure it's important to her family. So she was just like, I'm just going to do this and finish this. So I really like them, and I thought the video was just like visually, like they did that. They did the hair, the styling, like they did that.
The choreography when you dip it in and you roll it back and
throw my leg over, girl. Then I didn't realize how heavy my thighs were. I was like, oh. But like I love it. I loved it. The only thing that I do understand what people are talking about is just like, and this is in general. This is not necessarily just the lyrics of this song, but like in general, I do feel like hip hop has just become even more outward with, I guess, how the way people feel. So I guess the vulgarity, like all of that stuff has increased. Now people are like, oh, they're women, they can say what they want. And you're right. They like, I'm not saying they shouldn't say what they want. They girl power, say what you want. But I think overall, when we look at the grand scheme of things, like some things are a little too graphic for me. And that's just me. That's just a personal preference.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like they're just a little too graphic. And that isn't just for female rappers, like CeeLo said. It's for everybody.
And he really sat there and ate his food. And now, if you don't know about CeeLo, maybe you need to retreat to your Google and see CeeLo's rap sheet and see why he got yanked off of being a judge on The Voice.
Thank you. So it's just like, you know, I think, and that's in general. That's just hip hop in general. It's not just Megan and Cardi B. Their lyrics are a little racy, you know, but at the free speech, First Amendment. So I can't sit here and vilify them if I'm not going to do the same thing for
which so many people are doing. It seems so targeted, and it seems like, you know, I'm not here for the silencing of women as it pertains to agency over their own pleasure and their bodies. I'm not here for that. I'm not here for that. So yeah, I like the video. I'm here for the movement. Get in where you fit, and if it's not for you, don't watch it. It's that simple. But you know what? I think people are bored. It's 2020, people are bored, and everybody's looking for the next hot take or the next thing to critique, honestly. Because to me, this was not shocking in that, you know, we grew up with the Kaya and the Trina and the Little Kim. Like, to me, it's on that base level. Like, have these people never heard The Baddest Bitch by Trina, the uncensored version, all the stuff she's talking about? Like, this was not anything so left field, especially considering that both Cardi and Megan, you know, talk about sex on their songs individually. So it's not like this was like Tasha Cobbs and Kiki Sheard coming together talking about WAP, where we've never heard this kind of like subject matter in their music. This is what they talk about. What's the deal?
And you know, and I don't know, people just, I think because now it was them individually, now you put them together and it's like, oh my gosh, this is just a lot. And I think people have the issue with that. But like, I think it was great. And the fact that they highlighted other female rappers in there. I saw Ruby Rose in there, I saw Suki Hana in there. Like, I'm like, congratulations, because there's been it's so easy to pit women against each other and have them fight and be like, oh, I'm the best female rapper. No, I'm the best female rapper. And like the fact that they had a song and was just like, hey, we're going to invite all these other female rappers to come on and just make cameos, at least so we know, so that people can see like we're paying homage to these women. There's not, like, we can all do this. There's room for us all.
I can't wait for the mega mix. I need Kimmy Blanco on the phone. Maybe some Foxy Brown. Like, I want a mega mix, okay?
Oh,
But
because we need this ladies night 2020. Oh, this is, you remember, girl?
I want Missy sing the hook. I want Missy in there talking about there's some hoes in this house, there's some hoes in this, but harmonizing it, because you know Missy has a beautiful voice and she can sing. So final topic before we dive into all things Megan Thomas. What are your thoughts? It was announced earlier, well, last week now, but it was announced by Joe Biden that his running mate would be Senator Kamala Harris. And people had a lot of mixed reviews about this as well. Where do you stand? What are your thoughts on Joe Biden picking Kamala Harris as his running mate?
I think it was smart. I mean, for a lot of reasons. Number one, nobody was able to hold their own in that debate, in those debates, except for Kamala. Let's be real. Now, I wish more people supported her and made her the actual presidential nominee, if that was the case. But, you know, I think for a lot of reasons, she wasn't picked, because whether it was people thinking, oh, she's a Black woman and, you know, maybe she won't be able to be the president and we need somebody who's like a surefire that's going to get us in the office. You know, maybe that might have been one of the reasons. It also might have been because her track record. I know a lot of Black people who are like, I don't like Kamala because of how she did things as an attorney general or as a prosecutor in Cali. And that I understand as well. So, like, I think there's a lot of sides to her. But the one thing that I am so proud of is that, number one, she's a woman. And she has done what only 2 other women before her have done, which is become a nominee for the vice president. We've never had a female vice president. Like, she would be first. And to know that she would be a first and she's also half Black, like, I'll take that, like, for sure. I know. She's technically, like, Indian, like, yeah. So I will accept that, and I'm okay with that, because I love for my son, he's going to grow up in a world where a Black president is the norm, and to be like, oh, there was also, you know, when he has to learn history, oh, there's also a Black female vice president. Like, that's normal. I want that to be his reality, because when I was growing up, we had to learn the presidents. It was number old white men. I can remember because they all look the same. So at least this is something different for, like, my child to look forward to and be like, oh, there's people who look like me that have done this as well. So I'm all for that. You know what I mean? I'm all for that. And while I also am not like the biggest Biden ticket fan, you know, when I look at the opposition, I'm like, yeah, I think I'm okay with us having something different.
So listen, here's my thing, right? My thing, I kind of come from that same school of thought as well, where my thing is, I don't care if it was a Coogee sweater on the Democratic ticket, you know. Granted, people have their track records. What I don't understand is when people idolize or they become stands of politicians, because there's no such thing as the perfect politician. Exactly. No one's track record is squeaky clean. So when we make politicians like godlike figures, I feel like that's when people really start not making sense to me. But what radicalized me even further was enduring these last 4 years as a marginalized Black woman within the larger scale of the community. And yeah, like I said, personally, I don't care if it was a Coogee sweater. I don't care if it was a Reebok shoe running against Trump. That is who I would vote for, because my goal is to get him out of office. And then once he's out of office, then we can start. People are already holding Joe Biden and Kamala Harris accountable for some of the problematic things, like tickets in their track record. But I feel like that's when we can really show up even more and hold them even more accountable. But I feel like I want everybody to be on the same page as far as getting this monster up out of the White House, because I probably won't survive another 4 years of him. But I'm also, Megan, I'm also not holding my breath. I'm also not banking on this election. I'm fully prepared to be disappointed. Just as disappointed as I was in 2016. I'm fully prepared to wake up November 4th, 2020, and for Trump to I can't even say it. I can't even put it.
Don't put that in the atmosphere, girl. We're not even gonna bring that up.
No, no, no. I'm just saying, like, you know, we've seen all of these companies and a lot of these white people really show up in June. Black Lives Matter. Everyone's taking to the streets and posting their black boxes. But when they get in the privacy of that polling booth, or in this case, mailing in, which might not happen because you see he's defunding USPS. He's working hard for voter suppression across the United States.
Yeah.
But the true test comes when you get in the privacy of just you and your ballot.
Exactly.
My opinion.
You know, and here's the thing, even though I don't agree, like, you know, politics is a very divisive subject, but I will say this, I would rather people go vote. And even if they wanted to vote for Trump, I would rather you go vote and exercise your right to vote than to sit at home and do nothing, because I am a big advocate of voting, no matter what you choose, because somebody died for you to have your tail in the polling place. So if that means you vote something different than me, I'm okay with that, because I have ancestors and other Black people have ancestors in this country that even their grandparents who are still alive that had to deal with voter suppression and had to like go through so much just to cast a vote. So how irresponsible is it of anyone to sit home and be like, I'm not going to vote. My vote doesn't make a difference. When somebody
Well, those are the main people I've learned from what I've observed on social media. The people who don't vote are the main ones piping up, complaining about when policy is implemented. When your vote could have made a difference if you would have gotten your ass up, and now you're complaining because, you know, like I said, some new law or something that's directly affecting you is now implemented. Now it's a problem when you could have been a part of the change. Your vote matters, people. Get out and vote.
Right. And like, I would hope you don't vote for Trump, but if you do, that's your right and that's your choice. And again, someone died for you. If you don't remember that, watch Selma. Okay. Somebody died for you to have your black tail in the polling place.
And
so
don't come to me talking about respectability when it comes to Kamala and Joe, because if you vote for Trump, you're voting for someone who has a proven track record of sexual abuse. Someone
right.
who is on the record himself said that, he grabs him by the pussy. So don't come to me with your holier than thou and values and family values and all of that nonsense, because it really is, I disagree with the whole notion of how we have to constantly choose from the lesser of two evils, but sometimes that's just what it is. And right now,
in general, I mean, there's people who will say, for our beloved Barack Obama, I love you. I love Barack Obama. That's my favorite president of all time. But there's people who say, like, there was policies that
yes,
his watch that didn't benefit everyone. And guess what? That's what's always going to happen.
That's what I'm trying to get people to understand. Who, like, I tweeted and I said, this discussion will never go away, of picking the less of two evils or whatever, because even if we had 50 people to choose from, there's still going to be people who are unsatisfied. No candidate. So you have to really vote for who aligns with what you want right now in this moment. You have to really vote for who aligns with what you want, your vision, your personal vision for the next however, whatever. Because this discussion, there will never be one candidate who speaks for the entire whatever. Because politics is a dirty game, and there's no such thing as a perfect candidate. Boom. There we go. Now let's talk about Meg Scoop, okay? So Megan, you are a host, you're an actress, you're a producer, you wear so many hats. How do you do it all? Because I know that you host, I know that you were in the game. Like you had
I had a little cameo.
Yes, you were in the game, and you were in Real Husbands of Hollywood on BET, right? With Kevin Hart, or no?
Yes, I did it.
Okay, we're on that. You produce, you host. Like I mentioned at the top of this episode, we were together, and Megan served as like the Barbara Walters of that panel. You were the Whoopi of that panel. I don't know what part I played, but you were certainly you spearheaded that Being Mary Jane panel. So how do you find time to do it all? And do you have a favorite out of all of the hats that you wear? Do you have a favorite, one that you call like home?
Well, I will say I'm still learning to juggle all of them. I don't think I've done that well. I'll be honest with you, especially when motherhood was added into the mix, because, I became a mother later in life in my mid-30s, and like I've dedicated my entire life to my career. So I always wanted to be a mom, but when I became a mom, it was a harder transition for me because I had always been used to like making my dreams happen. Mm-hmm. And working like a Hebrew slave. Like I was working, you know what I'm saying? So like, then I had to change that and go, okay, now my priority is my child. Like he has no other mother. It's just me. So like, if I don't show up as his mom, then he is not going to be a whole person, right? Because you need your parents, you need your mom, you need your dad, like, you know. And there's people will say like, oh, I just grew up with one parent or whatever, but then they feel like something's missing from them, or they feel like there's things that they've had to adjust for. And so I'm like, I don't want to add to that for him, you know what I'm saying, by like being so busy that I'm doing too much work. And he's just like, oh, I had a mom who didn't care. So I had to switch and overhaul everything and focus on my child. And that was a big transition because I didn't know, you know, it was the first time in my life that I had to like focus on something that wasn't related to my career. And it's been a beautiful transformation, but it has been the roughest one ever. So I say all that to say I'm still learning to juggle it all. I'm still learning to balance it all. And at the end of the day, I think the biggest lesson for me is that stuff's not gonna get done, and it's okay. Like the world doesn't end, the world doesn't stop. You know, I be late to stuff like a lot now. I be like, and guess what? I mean, the world doesn't stop. Nobody died. We're good. You know.
Yeah.
So it's just been tough for that. But I will say my favorite out of all of the hats that I wear would have to be probably hosting, because I get to be myself and I get to talk. And that's what I really like to do. I get to talk to people, and I like to like get other people's stories out. Like that makes me happy. I see what I'm like, it's not about me. It's about like whoever I'm interviewing or whoever I'm talking to. Like I like the show to be great. I like for the people watching whatever show that I'm doing, for them to be entertained, for it to be informative. And like, because of that, I understand what my role as a host is. I'm there I need to be educated about whatever we're talking about. I need to make sure if I'm like in charge of hosting a show, I need to make sure the flow, like I got to make sure we keep it going, ask certain questions to keep it moving. And so for me, that's probably my favorite out of all of them. And then after that, I would say producing. I actually really like producing stuff.
Really? Well, yeah, you when we worked together a few weeks ago, you produced me. I should note that. Like you weren't we weren't hosting together. I was, you know, in front of the screen doing my shtick, and you were the wrangler and producing it. Like you were wearing that hat, you were working that room, you know, so to speak. Which, by the way, I did not know. Like I watched, you know, the videos that you sent me when we did that project, but I watched, because there's been some that have been released since then, like little compilations, and I'm now intimidated because, you know, I went first and everyone in the room apparently was a comedian. I am not a comedian, so I'm wondering like how I read, like was I boring compared to some of these people's?
Right.
Okay.
Little thing that, you know, casting / producing for this that I had to do. I understand, because I produced a show in the past. I understand what kind of personalities you need. So it's not necessary. I would say comedians do well in the show All the Questions because they're funny. But if you don't have to be a comedian. You just got to be a funny person. And Shar, you are that. You're very well informed. You have a very good point of view. So you did well. And that's why I called you, Shar. Okay.
Because when I saw the video, I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone that's in this compilation is like BET's Comic View Def Comedy Jam. And here's lowly old me over here like, well, like in my head, the way that I saw my delivery was not, and that's some more Bernie Mac, real, you know, Kings of Comedy type
from you. I just needed you to be you, and that's what you did, and you did well. Don't worry, because your stuff about to come out soon. All right, you'll see yourself. You did well. You did good. You did good. I wouldn't set you up for failure, girl. I wouldn't do that to you.
I'm nervous. I'm really nervous. So, the last time I saw you, prior to working with you 2 weeks ago, the last time I saw you, we were at a launch party for someone in Hollywood. And me, you, and Fania took a picture. Love Fania. I just saw Fania back in February, like late February, before the lockdown happened. And I still see her out and about occasionally. But I don't see her, of course, as frequently as I used to, because I don't even think she's still with AfterBuzz. And you know, I've been gone for like 4 years now. And so the band broke up, so to speak. So when I see her, we just always have a good time. But my question to you, the reason why I brought that up is because you relocated. So I remember like looking at my timeline, I'm like, oh, Megan's pregnant. Wow, wasn't expecting that, but congrats, work, keep scrolling. And now it's like, oh, now Megan's in Atlanta. So what prompted your move? And I want to know pros and cons, which we kind of talked about, but in context of what we're talking about now. I want to know pros and cons as to, because LA isn't easy, but I don't imagine Atlanta to be easy as well. Right. So what prompted your move, and pros and cons between both cities?
So I used to live in Atlanta like back in the day, 2005 to 2008, and I loved it. I moved here out of college. I was just like, I love Atlanta. It's a great city. And something in my spirit was like,
Did you go to college in Atlanta?
no, I didn't. I went to the University of Kentucky. But I just always loved Atlanta. So when I moved here for work, I just was like, I really love this city, but there was something at the time calling me away to start my career in entertainment, because at the time I came here to do like financial consulting. And so I love the city, but I always knew I would be back. Something in my spirit was like, you gonna be back here. So I never, ever, ever got rid of my 404 cell phone number, like ever. I just knew. And it has been how many years? 12 years? No, it was 11 years at the time until I finally moved back. Because I always had it in the back of my mind, like, I'm going back one day. And I said I wanted to do it once, like, I had a family. So now I have a fiance and we have a baby. And he was living in Miami. I was in LA, so we were bi-coastal. So it was just like, okay, when we had the baby.
Okay, pause. How the hell was that work? You were in a long distance relationship while you were here?
Yeah.
How does that work? And no, really, we're gonna put a pin in what I asked you, because I want to know, because I just started dating again, and I'm like, I need someone in LA proper. I need to be able it needs to be tangible. I need to be able to see you. I just recently got a car, so now it's no more Uber and Lyft. I can get to you. Hopefully you can get to me. How is it having a long distance relationship, especially when you're in one of these bigger coastal cities like LA?
Yeah. I mean, it's tough, but I think when you have the right person, you just make it work. You know what I mean? He has a job, like he owns his own business, so he just needs internet. He can work from anywhere. So he would come and stay with me and work from there. And then whenever I could leave and go to Miami, I would go there. And we actually met in Miami. It's funny enough, but so we just made it work. We did it for a couple years, and then we had the baby. Well, actually, we did it for a couple years. The baby was like right in the middle of that. But yeah, once we had our son, we were like, okay, it's time. So we moved to Atlanta last year. We just kind of made it work. You know, you have to make sure you see each other consistently. I will say that about long distance relationships. If you don't see each other consistently on whatever that schedule is for you, and then you don't have an end date for what you're doing, then it kind of doesn't work. You gotta talk about those things.
So you all were very intentional in your relationship. It wasn't a lot of gray area. It was like straight up conversation, A, B, and C, bullet points. This is what I need this to work.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we didn't know what those dates were, because of course when we started dating, we didn't know we were gonna like have a baby, be engaged, eventually get married. We didn't know any of this stuff. We were just kind of dating, and then like I got pregnant, and then we were just like, okay, well, what do we want to do? Like, where's the baby gonna be raised? And so I just knew in my spirit, I was like, Atlanta's the place. And
yeah, Atlanta seems like a good place to raise a child in contrast to Los Angeles.
I mean, it's cheaper. Okay, I could live in a home with not a 1,000 square foot
Megan,
600 square foot apartment.
Listen, I'm just now on my grown woman stuff. Like, it's happened like I've been living in my apartment for 4 years now, but getting a car and doing all this stuff, I'm like, Shar, we're real life out here adulting. It's not easy because I'm a freelancer, but we're real life out here, like, making it work. Like, what the hell? But you know what? I'm excited for tomorrow. Like, that's what's keeping me going, even in the pandemic. I have a thirst for what the next day brings while still being present right now.
And that's how you got to do it. That's perfect.
So what are some of your pros and cons of LA versus Atlanta?
I think, of course, the how far your dollar goes in Atlanta, in the South, it's just a lot. With a family, I didn't want to stay in a small space. I'm from Kentucky, so I'm used to like having open space, a yard, run around. And I always envisioned that for myself and my son. And so it was kind of like, well, I can't really do that in LA unless I'm like balling. But that might be a long time from now. You know what I mean? So when we moved to Atlanta, like, we're able to have space for roughly the same amount I was paying in rent, and which was that little small apartment I lived in. Lord, it almost took me. Okay.
Wait, where did you live? What area did you live in?
I lived in like historic West Adams, so just south of the 10. And it's a great area, but like it's still.
I heard that's where the boys at. Like, I need to start hanging out more south of the 10. Because I'm up here in Glendale.
That's where I live. Don't go over there, okay? It wasn't the best Like, it was a good neighborhood, but it was, you weren't gonna find nobody that you want to date over there. I'll be honest. But it was, I mean, it's just, it was a cool area. It just wasn't, you know, I'm used to space. Now, if you're from LA or you've been there a long time, I understand why it's like, okay, well, this is the norm for me, but it wasn't the norm for me, especially when I knew I wanted to have a family and like, you know, more space. So that's the one thing I do like in Atlanta. Things are cheaper. And the fact that there's still an entertainment, like, I can do what I do. The industry is still here. It's, of course, it's not as big as LA, but it's still here and it's still growing and it's still great. And you know, the whole adage of like, in LA you're a small fish in the big sea. Here you're a big fish in a smaller sea, which feels different because now it's like, okay, all the years that I spent in LA is now, it trained me for being this person in LA. Now I know what I know and I bring value here because I have an experience and I have like classes that I've taken, experience, I've hosted, I've produced. And you know, I've been able to work out here surprisingly, because the first time I moved here, I was like, what am I gonna do? I don't really know the entertainment lay of the land. And now, like, I still, you know, I work for All Def, but I still freelance and do stuff on the side. And I've been, you know, I've worked for BET several times on the Tyler Perry lot, which is like down the street. And I'm like, it's just so, it does something for my spirit to know all them times that I've driven past Paramount Studios, Warner Brothers, you know, every studio in LA, driven past them and just look at them in awe. And now there's a whole studio here that is bigger than like 3 of them put together. And it's owned by a Black man, makes my spirit happy. You know what I'm saying? Like, regardless of what you think of Tyler Perry Studio or Tyler Perry in general and his work, the fact that he is a Black man who has gone from poverty to now like $1 billion net worth and owns one of the biggest TV studios and television film studios in the nation, in the world, like, that's amazing. And it's just beautiful to me that there's a lot of examples of stuff like that here in Atlanta. And I love that because I love that lesson for my son as well. I want him to grow up with these images where it's just the norm, you know?
What's so crazy is that I'm trying to stop saying crazy because you're not supposed to say that anymore. What's so wild is that I was supposed to be in Atlanta. Well, I had the option to be in Atlanta for like a month to work on that lot to do something, but I passed on it because we just couldn't come to a resolution. I'll just say that. I want to be as vague as possible, but just know that I didn't know that you did projects and stuff there. So the chances of me running to you again would have been extremely high because I would have been down there through like the 22nd of next month.
Yeah.
But okay, that's nice to know. So, and it does make sense to, in my opinion, to raise a family there. I'm just so proud of you. You're out here doing the moving and the shaking, like in real life, and you're bi-coastal because you flew out here for what we worked on.
Yeah. So because I work for All Def still, I go back and forth. And if there was no COVID, I'd be in LA like once a month, which honestly is like the prayer that I've prayed and that God answered for me. Because I always, you know, maybe like 10, 15 years ago, I always wanted to be bi-coastal. And I loved Atlanta and I always loved LA, even though I hadn't visited at the time. And I was just like, something about, I just want to be back and forth between these 2 cities. And this
How long have you been in LA?
7 years.
Wow. I'm on my 6th.
Yeah. Oh yeah. See, I mean, it's great. I love LA. I just didn't want to raise my family there.
Right.
And so now I have like the best of both worlds. I get to have a house. I get to like live a suburban life, but I also still get to work in entertainment, which is the industry that I know that I'm supposed to be a part of. And I can go back and forth. And I love it. It's great.
So tell us a little bit. You have a podcast titled Mommy Needs a Break with your co-host Marisa. That's her name, right? Marisa Johnson?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about Mommy. Huh?
She'd be so happy that you said her name right, too. That's Shar. Research. I love you, Shar.
Listen, I try. You know, I'm a journalist because I freelance. I started writing again. So I've been contributing to like publications, like magazines, like digital publications on top of doing the speaking gigs. Listen, I try to get it right because I want you to get me. I'm Shar Jossell, not Shar Jossell, not Shar Jossell. If you do your research, you know how to pronounce my damn name. So Marisa Johnson.
Yeah.
Tell us about Mommy Needs a Break.
So it came out of her and I are both like mommies in the same period of life. We had our kids around the same time. We both would just call each other and be like, what does this color poop mean? She did this. Is it okay? My son did this. Like, do you think he'll survive? Should I call the nurse or not? So we had all these questions and we'd like say all these things that you're not supposed to say as a mom, like, what if I just shut the door and leave her in there? Will I get like we would say all these and we were like, yo, I feel like other moms feel like this too. So we just started the podcast, mostly just get an hour away from our kids and just be like us for a moment. And it just turned into this great podcast where we talk about our experiences as mothers. It's very entertaining, I will say that. And we have
I like the Ain't No Shame segment and the mommy tips. I'm not a mother, and I don't plan on being one anytime soon. Well, like a direct mother. Some of the kids call me mother. Some of them call me auntie. But I don't plan, like, motherhood just right now. But I'm not a mom, I'm not a parent, and I still found it entertaining and engaging. I like you all segments. Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate it. I mean, that's the goal of it. It's just because we're talking about our experiences, but there's a lot of people who've said what you said, and it's like, it's just funny. Like, y'all just be talking. And I'm like, good, because I always strive to be a host that people want to watch. You know what I mean? That are entertainer, inform. And I always watch myself and go, should I have said that? Should I do this? Like, I critique myself because of it. But, that our podcast is a labor of love, and it's absolutely like my little baby. It's just, I love it. I'm so excited about it to see where it goes and to see how it transitions with us, because right now it's a mommy podcast, with two new moms. But 5-10 years from now, what is this podcast going to look like? Because we'll be in the game as mothers for some years. So I'm just excited that this podcast will grow with us, and you'll get to see that, with our kids and us transition into like more moms that are like confident in ourselves as opposed to being like,
is this podcast launched off of both of you all's first children, or does Marisa already have some in the batch?
No. This was launched with our first kids. Her daughter is 1 year older than my son, and now she has another one. So like, you see what I'm saying? Even in just the first, we've done 31 episodes. So in this transition, you see, us starting as new moms, and now like, I've been in the game for a year. She's been in the game for like 2 years, and now she's a mother of 2. So you see the transition happening already in 30 episodes.
Yeah, that's dope. I love it. And I love that for you. I like that you still find a way to always, much like myself, always maintain some level of visibility. Always got your voice out there in some capacity. That's why I'm doing Sundays with Shar, because I was losing my mind and I was like, I need some normalcy. Like, this is a labor of love. I'm not getting paid for this. You're not getting paid for this, but I still wanted to, it's always good to flex that muscle and to have these conversations, especially with people that you like and admire, like I feel in relation to you. So this is good for me.
Well, no, you should do this, because Shar, this is up your alley, girl. Okay, this is like,
well, yeah, it's just in fairness, it's just a summer series. I got 6 more episodes left after you, I think, or maybe it's 5 after you. But I mapped it out, so it's 10 episodes. Ooh. So, and after when fall begins, I'll do them sporadically, not every Sunday, I don't think. But that's just me rambling right now. So, CM Lee 3143 wants you to share your Freaknik story. I don't even know this, so I'm all ears. What's going on with Freaknik, Meg Scoop?
So I was 13 years old in 1998, and I was a freshman in high school. Very green, okay, like church girl, was in church 5 days a week. Didn't know what Freaknik was at all. Was in Kentucky, like I just was living my little churchy life, right? And then all of a sudden, my school was doing a school trip to Atlanta. And you just had to be in this like one club. You had to pay your money. And my friends were like, let's go. It's going to be so great. So we're like, cool. And then we noticed, even though it was open to the whole school, like only the Black kids was like really trying to get a trip.
Of course.
I didn't know why. I didn't understand. And so when we got to Atlanta, I was like, oh, this is why all the Black kids wanted to come to this trip. I learned what Freaknik was. We were on a charter bus. I'm telling you, when we pulled into like downtown Atlanta, the bus got like ambushed by a bunch of like 20 teenage boys who could like see that there was like teenage girls on this bus. They were like pushing the bus. I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? It was wild. Like even though I had a lot of fun, it is also very dangerous for females and young females at that, because there was, in the course of like 3 days, we had seen flyers go up of girls missing that quickly. Yeah, so it was dangerous, but it was also wild for me to be like 13 and see like a girl walking around with like a sheer dress with no brown panties, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I would have been shell shocked. I would have been shell shocked for that.
And it was bad at the time of my life. To this day, like me and my best friends, there's 8 of us, like we all went on this trip, and it was so much, like we still talk about it, like, it was so great. And Freaknik 98, that was the time.
You know what? Real quick pivot. Khalif says he wants to be like us when he grows up. Hi, Khalif.
Hi, Khalif.
Thank you. Khalif is actually in Atlanta. We what's his face? I did his podcast about quarantine months ago. But this Freaknik story is amazing, because around the time that you were discovering Freaknik and seeing it in person, that was around the time where I started. Like, I always tell people that as far as hip hop is concerned, Lil' Kim was my first gaze into like Black feminism. And you know, some people scrunch their noses up at that, but Lil' Kim, I got her album Notorious K.I.M., the explicit version from Best Buy, and listening to that, after that experience, after that roller coaster, I felt shell shocked, but I felt like kind of like, this woman is bad ass. Like, she is fully taking, like, I didn't have the language for it at 13, of course, but I remember feeling like, that's that bitch. Like, in so many words, like, that's that bitch. Like, she is rapping, she is talking about, she's got the, you know, like, but 13 is a pivotal age for a lot of us. I'll just say that.
It is. You learn a lot of stuff. I saw a lot of things at 13 at Freaknik. Learned what it was. And now the funniest part of that story was, like, I have this shirt that I still wear that I got from this. It's like Freaknik 98. It has holes in it and stuff, but I still wear it just for the sentimental value. But when I got back, I remember I wore that church I wore the shirt to church, because I was like, it was like a Wednesday. Girl, it was like a Wednesday, and I was like, I didn't know what Freaknik is. These old people at this church don't know what it is. I'm gonna just wear this shirt, because it was like it was in the Tommy Hilfiger logo. So you remember like the black, white and red flag. So it was cool. So that was in at the time. So I was like, I'm gonna wear this shirt to church, and no one knew. Like, nobody knew what it meant. So I did it like 2 or 3 times.
So did they like think that it was like, just by glancing at it, they thought it was just like Tommy? Like, no one took the time to read it?
You know, old people at church, they don't be paying attention.
Yeah.
Like, the last time I wore that shirt, girl, it was a minister that was like young. Like, he was like 20, 22. So after like the service, he was like, Megan, come here. And I was like, yeah, what's up? He was like, don't wear that shirt anymore to church, okay? Like, ever. Okay, because I know they don't know what it means, but I know what it means. Don't wear it. And I was like, okay. Never wear that shirt again at church, like, ever.
I have to ask, how long were you down in Atlanta to experience? Was this like a turnaround trip? How long was your charter bus down there?
It's like 3 or 4 days. I mean, and the trip wasn't for Freaknik. It just happened to be.
Well, I know that. I would hope not.
Well, apparently the kids was like, this is a Freaknik trip. It was like in Atlanta, like.
You never know with the 90s.
Right. It was supposed to be experiencing Atlanta, all the tourist stuff, like the Coca-Cola Museum. Like, it was supposed to be an educational trip. So we were there for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, so I did something similar to that, but I was much older than you. I was 18, or I was a fresh 19. My alma mater competed in the Honda Battle of the Bands.
Oh, nice.
And so I took a charter bus. That's when I was first exposed to Family Guy at 19.
Dang.
Because they had it playing on the bus, and they had a bootleg copy of Dreamgirls. Dreamgirls was just new around that time. This was like January 2007. Oh. And I remember we kind of did the same things, but I did a college tour also. I like Atlanta. I just never, the last time I was in Atlanta was spring of 2008 when my cousin graduated from Spelman. That is the last time I was there, but every time I'm there, I have a good time. I've never had a bad time in Atlanta.
Great city, I love it, but don't y'all be trying to move here. We full, okay? I was the last one they let in. Don't come.
I feel the same about LA. Now, Meg, we have about 5 minutes left, and so I'm going to let people get some of their questions in. So JB_Ballard93 wants to know, who is the funniest on All Def Digital to you?
It changes every day, honestly. Like, I tell everybody that they're not funny to me. They really are, but I say that to them because I don't ever want them to get a big head, because most of the guys that work on there, like, they're like my brothers. And so I'm like, I need to let you know, you might have 1 million followers, but you're not that funny to me. And that, like, that be really hurting them. But I
I
really do
love
think
it.
every day it changes, honestly. It depends on what we each have our days. Because some days I don't ever think I'm funny, but some days people be like, Megan, like, today it's you. You're the funny one. I'm like, you know what? So
Do you
every
feel
day it changes.
pressure to be funny? Because you're like the only woman on the cast holding it down, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not a comedian. I never signed up to be one. They know I'm not a comedian. I think my wit has gotten quicker as a result of being around these comedians on a constant basis. But like, I'm not supposed to be the funny one. You know what I mean? And I think that takes the pressure off. So when I'm allowed to have my moments, it's great, because they didn't expect me to be funny. I was just there.
I love Kev. I became recently a new fan of his. He hosted I watched a fascinating interview that he did on his YouTube with
Yeah.
this black woman. I can't remember her name, but it's about black women in the church and like
Oh,
love, sex, and politics. It was like a long special. And I watched that and I was like, let me go follow this man. And so I've been enjoying like his skits and his side-by-side videos and stuff. Kev on Stage, right? That's his name.
Kev is one of the brightest, like, most, like, he's so smart, and the way he thinks creatively. I don't know people who are that creative that quick. He can just like, he's really good at that, and that's my brother. I love him to death, and he really is funny. But he's one of the main people I'll be like, you're not funny. I don't laugh at your jokes. I laugh on the inside.
Yachty says Patrick Cloud is the funniest to
Pat
them.
has his days now. Don't get it twisted. Pat is really
That's
funny.
the guy that I met on set when I did the questions, right? With the dreadlock.
Yes, Pat is a little creative soul. He's very talented. He's funny. Can make shows that work, that people want to watch. He's just I don't understand how his brain works. It's just everywhere. He's good at a lot of stuff. He's just very creative.
And someone mentioned Tahir. Remember, I told you Tahir, I met him when I first moved here. I went out with this guy. We went to a comedy show and Tahir was performing there. So when I started seeing you all work together, I'm like, I know, like, I have a picture with this man from when I first moved here, when I was like, 155 pounds and had 24 inches of multidimensional blonde down my back. So that's always fun to see.
Yes, it's funny and he's probably one of the hardest working people I know. That's like, we had to host a show. We used to host a daily news show together called The Drop. And like, his work ethic is unmatched. He's never late. He always has his stuff together. He's funny. He can act. Like, he's gonna make it in life for sure.
Well, Meg, we got just under a minute left. I want to thank you for taking the time out to do Sundays with Shar. This is good. This was fun. Hopefully we can do it again sometime down the road. You were my like 4th or 5th installation, and thank you. This was good, and I hope that you all go follow Meg. You learned something new. She got all her stuff listed out. It's Meg Scoop on Instagram and everywhere, right? It's like that everywhere.
Let's keep it simple. Meg Scoop everywhere. Also, Mommy Needs a Break at MNAB Podcast. Mommy Needs a Break. That's what that stands for. MNAB Podcast. Follow that everywhere too.
All right, Megan, thank you for joining me. And for those of you sticking around for hour 2, I'm going to hop right back on soon and we can debrief. All right?
Well, thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye, Megan. Take care. Enjoy your Sunday. Love you.
Same to you.